if I am going to know what rape is, for instance, right? Do I ask the rapist or do I ask the rape victim?
Obviously ask the victim.
Right. So I would always say to people who are victims of racism, what is racism to you? Because the people that have never experienced it, not only never experienced it, but the ones been the ones to actually force it upon you, are now giving you the definition of what it is. So you can ask a rapist's view of rape and they will give you their view, but it won't be the same as a victim. Personally, I think there's a scale of racism. And I think the scale of racism, it's just my own personal scale. Do you know what I mean? I think it ranges from ignorance
definitely
to people that want to see people lynched and burned, right? I've said this about everyone. Everyone has race prejudice to some degree.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? And what it is that I think other races who are not white get to exercise their race prejudice without fear of being labeled.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Racist.
But if you're white,
you're racist.
And you get you exercise your race prejudice, which is in my eyes normal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's normal. I'm not gonna lie, to some degree I sympathized with him because he was a white man in a white country living in a majority white town who saw his town change over the years that he saw it change from a regular white town to this Asian filled, Muslim filled town. Right. So I said to myself, if I'm living in the Congo, right?
Where you're from originally?
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm actually from, my parents are Jamaican, but I'm just randomly said,
yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if I'm living in the Congo and all of a sudden in the 30 years that I'm there, I see the Congo turn into basically Chinatown, because the Chinese are in, I'm going to feel some type of way. I'm going to be like, actually guys, like, what's going on? So I get why he was slighted. But like I said, when a white person exercises their race prejudice,
they're labelled racist. You can't really think. That's weird though. You know what? I think it kind of puts us a bit less than human though. Don't you think, when like black people will say, oh, you can't be, like, we can't be racist. We can say what we want. But like, if once again, like, a white person explains how they feel about whatever situation, they're labelled a racist. But I see on Twitter a lot of people say like black people can't be racist, which I personally don't really understand. Right.
So I'll break that down.
Go on.
Right. So for me, there's race prejudice and there's racism. And anyone can be, in my eyes, anyone can be race prejudiced. You can be a Chinese person and not like people from Pakistan. You could be a white person and not like people from China. Right. You can be a black person and not like people from Samoa. That, to me, is race prejudice, because we are prejudiced.
Isn't that prejudging?
Yeah, we're prejudging based off their race. But
Okay.
Racism is a systematic, institutional thing.
Right.
And that is a type of racism that I am concerned with myself, because that's the type that adversely impacts the lives of people. A Chinese guy working at Asda, who doesn't like black people, is not going to adversely impact my life or yours, right? True. But that same guy in a position of power now has the power to adversely impact your life depending on where he's working. He could work in the social care system, he could work in education, he could work in media, and he could use his power and influence to adversely impact the lives of black people. So I've always said, for me, racism is institutionalized. Racism is what I'm concerned with. Individuals being race prejudice, I don't really care. I've said it to people, you could call me a nigger, right? But my question in my head is, what do you do for a living? That's my question, because you see that you have in your head about me, are you able to adversely impact the life of people that look like me? And if you're not, I'll let you go about your business. It's whatever, it's just a word to me, all right? But if you think I'm a nigger and you work and you're a head teacher of a school and there are black students at your school, you're just very worrying. Do you know what I mean?
Is that word, because the reason why I kept looking at my laptop is because I've literally brought up the word racism to get the official terms of it, because everyone's idea of racism may be different. Do you get what I'm saying? And from looking at it, it says prejudice, discrimination and antagonism by an individual, community, institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular race or ethnic group, typically one that is of a minority. Yeah.
So it said community, or institution. Is what you say there.
So basically, prejudice, discrimination, or whatever. Yeah, by a individual or community or institution.
So this is my thing now, right? That definition of racism was made by a people who never experienced racism.
Right.
And so for me, I always said to someone, if I am going to know what rape is, for instance, right? Do I ask the rapist or do I ask the rape victim?
You'd obviously ask the victim.
Right. So I would always say to people who are victims of racism, what is racism to you? Because the people that have never experienced it, not only never experienced it, but the ones been the ones to actually force it upon you, are now giving you the definition of what it is. So you can ask a rapist's view of rape, and they will give you their view, but it won't be the same as a victim.
Of course not.
And so I've always said, if you want to know what racism actually is, you should ask the victims of racism. And so I subscribe loosely to Francis Cress Welsing's definition of what racism is. And so that's why I've come to my conclusion.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what you class racism is. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's going to have their own definitions of it.
And what I don't like is when people confuse racism. So I was on a panel show recently, and I was talking to Lembit Opik, who was a MP, and he's white, and I think his lineage is from somewhere in Europe. Both lineages are from somewhere in Europe. Right. And he said when he came from Estonia, I think it was, he came from Estonia to England, he experienced racism, or his sister experienced racism. And I said, how? He said, oh, they used to make fun of her accent. And I said, no, I'm not being liberties, but that's not racism. You're both white, you're both European, you have an accent. They may be prejudging you based off of your ethnicity, but that's not racism. You can't say two white people making fun of another person's accent is racism. Like the British don't like the Welsh, and they take the mickey out of their accent, and the French doesn't mean they're racist. That means there's some kind of prejudging, right, based off of the person, but it's not based on their race, because they are the same race. Just like if you're from Jamaica and I'm from Barbados, and I say, you see those small islands, it's not racist.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? There's some kind of weird, prejudging. Yeah,
it's weird the times, because even for me, like, I would call, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong and whatever, but like for me, prejudice would be like me, prejudging you. Yeah. But like, I might have an opinion on you. So you might have walked through the door and you've told me you're from Jamaica, and now everything that I think of Jamaicans is what I'm going to think of you.
Right, exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So then, say for that example, like when the person travelled from Estonia to here.
Yeah. It's
if
prejudice.
they're bantering, but then what was their prejudged opinion on them? If they're taking the piss out of that person, like...
Or maybe it's just discrimination.
Yeah, discrimination, I would think is probably, that's more... If it's
discrimination based on their geographic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more discriminating.
Yeah, exactly. So I want people to understand the difference between discrimination, prejudice, and racism. And a lot of the times, people just get them mixed up and put them all in one. And I'm like, no, we've actually got to start,
We have got to start doing it, but I can see how it happens sometimes, because the line... I don't think it's like a huge margin. It's kind of, because it just depends on the situation, the race, and who is the person that's allegedly being racist or... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How everyone will take it will be different.